The Raiders will begin their offseason workout program today, and they get a visit with the number 1 overall draft pick, the anticipated number 1 overall draft pick. That plus more on Tuesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for April 7th, 2026.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your number 1 sports podcast network. You know we're very proud of that. We're also very proud of the fact that this show continues to grow, and that's each and every day, and that's because of your support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. So we shout him out. We appreciate him. You can find him on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, as many of you do, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you, 707-654-4693. As we close things out, as we normally do, we'll hear from you. Calls, texts, a lot of great feedback on a lot of different conversations we've had around here, and we'll do that coming up. Segment number 3. Segment number 2, I finally did it. I finally did the mock draft simulator. I broke down, did the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator. I'd always tell you that if you do one, you're going to do multiples. I did multiples, but I'm just going to tell you about the first one. I'll tell you about the first one, let you know who I selected, what the overall grade was, where I thought I did really well, and where I thought I went wrong. And trust and believe, there was a lot that I thought that I went wrong. So we'll do that in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day. We'll go ahead and jump right into it. And off top, I talked about it on Monday's show that the Kirk Cousins deal was not signed, sealed, and delivered. And I said I'm just waiting to get that email from the Raiders. I'm waiting to see that social media post that says, yes, in fact, he is signed to the Silver and Black. And that happened. That happened on Monday afternoon, as a matter of fact. Following my radio show, it didn't take too long after that. All of a sudden, the news came through. The email came through. Kirk Cousins is now a member of the Raiders. The Raiders put out the statement. He enters his 15th season in the league, joining the Raiders after spending the past 2 seasons with the Falcons. Originally entered the league as a 4th-round pick by Washington back in 2012 draft and spent 6 years with that team before signing with Minnesota for 6 seasons. So it goes on to talk about Kirk Cousins, but we all in all know Kirk Cousins, his career, what he's been able to do, what he hasn't been able to do, and the fact that he's going to be that veteran quarterback that'll lead the way for Fernando Mendoza, whether that's right away, starting off the season as a starting quarterback, or even just pushing Fernando Mendoza in training camp. There's also another element of it that I didn't think about until I heard from Kirk Morrison on my radio show on Monday about what else Kirk Cousins is going to do for Fernando Mendoza without ever really telling him a thing or saying, hey, this is how you do it. This is what Kirk had to say about what he did when he first entered the NFL and what Fernando Mendoza is going to be able to have to do and have an opportunity to do with Kirk Cousins now as that veteran quarterback.
I'm excited to see him go out and be the guy that shows Fernando what it means to be a quarterback in the NFL. And it's not just, hey, Rook, come follow me and show. No, just go through your routines and let Fernando be a sponge. That's what I did, Q. I wanted to see how do you go about your 1st and 10 during the early parts of the week, your 3rd down preparation. I want to know, when do you go see the chiropractor, right? I had no idea coming out of college that Friday, chiropractors were there after practice. Massage therapist there right after practice, right? Chiropractors there Saturday night before the game. Massage therapist there Sunday before the game. Getting an IV on Sunday. Like, these are the things that people don't see that I learned just as a sponge, as a young rook, seeing how you go about the regiment of an NFL week. That's what Fernando is going to see when the Raiders draft him.
So I didn't think about that side of things behind the scenes. We don't talk about the chiropractor showing up to practice so you can, get work on, or the massage therapist getting the work in, or when to get your IV. We don't think about any of that stuff. I have to be the first to admit, I didn't think of any of that until I heard, Kirk Morrison break that down and mention that on my radio show. And I even asked him, like, who was it that you learned from, or was it a multiple amount of guys, or just whoever was around you? And he was like, well, I was blessed. I had so many talented players around me, from Charles Woodson to Randy Moss to Warren Sapp and others greats that had long careers that end up with gold jackets. So he was able to just kind of soak that up and be the sponge and understand what they were doing and what he needed to do to be a pro. And so that's something that Fernando Mendoza is going to be able to do now with Kirk Cousins in front of him, where it's not up to Cousins to be the teacher. It's not up to Cousins to be the coach, right? It's not any of that. But Fernando will be smart enough to say, hey, how do I be an NFL pro? How do I be an NFL quarterback and be a pro? Let me watch the guy that's been here now 15 seasons, as that statement that the Raiders put out, as that mentioned. So really good stuff. There's also, if you want to learn some more about Kirk Cousins, he actually sat down with Amber Thea Harris, Raiders.com. I do encourage you to go check that out, just so you can hear what he, is bringing to the table, him talking about the offense and really how he's talking about it sounding like his offense, right? Because, again, he's very familiar with Clint Kubiak and what he brings to the table, and not to mention his time with Washington, basically the same type of offense that he was in as well. So he's going back. Another thing that Kirk Morrison pointed out to me, he's going back to understanding the language, going back to a system that he's familiar with, as opposed to what he was learning in Atlanta that was totally different. He actually now goes back to something that he's familiar with the terminology, and it'll make everything a lot easier for him. The Raiders also re-signed center Will Putnam to the exclusive rights deal. Not a big surprise. Expected him to sign him. He's obviously going to be more depth along that offensive line. And remember, the Raiders are building a roster of 90 right now, and eventually it'll get whittled down to 53. But right now they're worried about the best 90-man roster. I don't think it's any surprise that Fernando Mendoza is coming in for a visit today, especially since the Raiders' offseason workout program begins today. So remember, it's just phase one, so it's not a whole lot that they're doing out there. It's 2 weeks of the program, limited to meetings, strength and conditioning, physical rehab only. Clint Kubiak's going to be speaking to the team. I'm sure he's going to get an opportunity to give them what the identity of the team is, his expectations of the team, how they're going to build this and put it in the right place. Anyone with the contract is probably expected to be there. I'm not saying that it's required that they're all there, but the anticipation is that most of the guys, if not everybody, will be in attendance. And again, it'll be Clint Kubiak's first opportunity to speak in front of the team in general. Obviously, not the players that are going to be drafted at the end of April, except for Fernando Mendoza, who's conveniently going to be there and visiting on today as well. So again, I don't think that that's a coincidence. I think the Raiders timed it out pretty perfectly. He'll get familiar with the building, get acclimated to some of the players around the building, and it just starts the process of Fernando Mendoza being a Raiders quarterback moving forward. But Kirk Cousins, the deal that I had talked about, that I said it wasn't official until it was official, is now official like a referee's whistle. Coming up in segment number 2, my mock draft, Pro Football Network. I tried my hand at it, and then I tried my hand at it again. And again and again and again, but I'll just break down my one mock draft, the first one I did. We'll talk about that coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Betterhelp. Financial stress is something that a lot of people are carrying right now. And it's not just about numbers. It can affect your sleep, your relationships, and your overall mental health in the ways that build up over time. And the reality is, struggling with money doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes it just means you haven't had the right kind of support. It's something that you think about all the time, right? How easy is it to put pressure on yourself financially without really talking about it, right? The stress that comes with figuring out everything on your own, right? Not trying to talk to anybody about it. The expectations you feel you have to have everything together, and how that pressure could spill into other areas of your life. Well, therapy is not about financial advice. It's about working through stress, anxiety, and the emotions that come with it. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served, BetterHelp makes it easier to get matched and start focusing on what you need. Right now, when life feels overwhelming, think about therapy and how it can help. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to deep dive into my first mock draft I did by way of Pro Football Network. They have their draft simulator, and so I went and checked that out. I usually use the Pro Football Focus, but I don't know what's been going on with them lately, and so I kind of decided to go in a different direction with Pro Football Network. And I know there's other mock draft simulators out there, and so I'm not sure which one you prefer. But I went through it, right? I picked the Raiders, obviously, and went through all 7 rounds. And man, I'll tell you, I always caution that whenever you do this, you're guaranteed not to do just one mock draft. You're going to say, well, that was not bad. Let me see if I can do one a little bit better. And that's the rabbit hole that I fell into. I did this Monday while I was at the radio station, and I felt like I had a few minutes extra time. So I thought, okay, I'll go through it and do it really quickly. And then that turned into the second mock draft, which turned into a third mock draft, which turned into 6 mock drafts, which turned into like 10. And then finally I was like, all right, Q, put the mock draft away, right? I was like, I got to be doing something else. I'm doing something wrong if all I'm doing is sitting here going through these mock drafts in this mock draft simulator. So obviously it was a lot of fun, but I'm just going to go ahead and hit you with the very first one that I did, because that one was, again, that was the one that I did first. And this is what it is when you're in that room, right? When you're in that room making the selections, you don't have multiple times to go back and do it over. No, I didn't like that results. Let's do it again. It's one and done. So I'm going to go ahead and hit you with the first one. Now, the number one overall pick was easy. Obviously, I ended up with Fernando Mendoza, quarterback, Indiana. I got an A+ there. Then is when it got tricky in round number 2. And I decided to get a little froggy. They always offer like, hey, you have 2 trade, requests here, or two or 3. There was even one time when I had 4. I did it one mock draft when I actually did the trade at the number 1 overall just because I wanted to see what it was like. So I traded with the Jets, and I had like 5 or 6 picks that they gave me in return, and I still didn't feel good about it. I didn't even finish that draft. I just completely just shut that one off. But at 36, I got hit with you have multiple trade requests. And so I ended up making a trade at 36. I got a little froggy and I decided to leap. So I traded the number 36 overall pick and the number 117 overall pick to the Cincinnati Bengals for pick number 41 and pick number 72. So as far as draft capital points, I gave away 191 points, but I got 213 in return. So at that point, I felt good about myself. I'm like, hey, I'm winning, right? I got to come up, right? I went from 191 to 213. What can go wrong? So with the number 41 overall pick, I went Denzel Washington wide receiver. I got an A-. So I'm feeling good. I got an A+ with Mendoza, A- with Denzel Boston. I'm thinking, all right, man, what's so hard about this? I got this thing figured out. Then I got to pick number 3, number 67 overall, Keontae Scott, Miami cornerback. Got an A- there. So right now I'm cooking with grease. A+, A-, A-. And then I get to that number 72 pick. And remember, number 72 is who I got from the Cincinnati Bengals. I picked up the 41 and 72 in exchange for 36 and 117. So I don't know why, but every time after the Keontae Scott selection, every time I was ready to select, the guy that I wanted went like one pick before me. So traditionally when the Raiders have made a selection and then the better player ends up being the pick after them, I ended up every single time, whatever round it was, it seemed like the player that I wanted went one pick right before me. So at 72, I ended up with Jacoby Lane, the USC wide receiver. Didn't do so well there. Got a C-. So I will say with none of my picks did I go into the D or F, but C- I got a couple times. Jacoby Lane was the first one that I got a C- for. Then I got to pick 102, Darrell Jackson Jr., D-Jax, Florida State defensive tackle. I got back up to a B. That was at pick 102, so I'm feeling good about myself again. All right, I had one misstep that I'm back in the mix. 134 overall, Harold Perkins Jr., LSU linebacker. C-. Not good. C- there. So I'm thinking, oh, man, here I go. I'm really starting to fail. Number 175, Inez Cooper, Miami guard. I got a B- with that selection. So, okay, not bad, right? Addresses the offensive line. Cool. Dalen Everett came in at 185, Georgia cornerback. Got a B there. Then 208, Andre Fuller, Toledo cornerback, B-. And then I closed things out. Number 219, Harrison Wallace, the third, Ole Miss wide receiver, got a B. But I started looking at it. I was like, well, if I was putting together a 7-on-7, I did really well, right? I got a quarterback, I got a couple wide receivers, and I got 3 DBs. And I realized, like, that probably wasn't the direction that I should have gone. I probably didn't need to get 3 corners, right? Defensive tackle, cool, right? Darrell Jackson, D-Jax, that was good. Addressing the linebacker position, I probably should have done that a little bit better and probably with a better player. Harold Perkins Jr., I got a C- there. But I was trying to, attack every area that the Raiders need, from the quarterback to the wide receiver to the offensive lineman to wide receiver to linebacker, right? And I didn't get a safety, even though I have 3 corners. I could probably convert one of those to safety if I need to, but it didn't feel right. Like, as much as I finished it up, and I did get a B+ on it, so it wasn't like it was the worst draft ever, but it just didn't feel right. When I went through it, Mendoza made sense, Boston made sense, even Keontae Scott made sense. After that, didn't feel good about the Lane pick at 72. Didn't feel good about the Perkins pick at 134. Didn't really feel good about the Everett and Fuller picks because those are 2 more corners. I feel like I could have addressed a different area. But like I said, every single time I thought that I was going to get somebody. All of a sudden, it's like that guy was gone, right? I thought I was going to get A.J. Halsey. Then he was gone one pick before. Zachariah Branch is the guy that I was looking for. He was gone one pick before. There was multiple guys. McDonald, that I thought I was going to go get him. He was gone a pick before. It's just like every time I saw a name that I was like, yep, that's exactly where I want to go, they were gone. But the fun part about that is, and this is just, a simulator, and this is one that you could press reset on and do multiple times over. The reality is that these guys have one shot to get it right, and they've got to go through these things, and they do in that room. I've been told by, Dave Ziegler, Tom Telesco told us as well. They go through it, not necessarily a simulator, but they'll go through it scenario after scenario after scenario after scenario. Well, if this happens and this happens, Tom Telesco said it. And that scenario that happened where Brock Bowers ended up at 13 actually happened in one of their simulators. They said, okay, if this happens, we're going to take this player. You've got to go through it so many times. So as much as I laugh at myself for getting down that rabbit hole and going through and doing 10 or 12 drafts or whatever the case may be, these guys are doing a ton of them just to try to see every single scenario so nothing catches them off guard, so nothing surprises them. Like, again, I start looking up, it was like, yeah, I guess Jacoby Lane would be a good pick here. No, not so much, right? 72, a little rich for him. So that wasn't a very good pick at that spot. Not to mention, I already grabbed Denzel Boston, the wide receiver out of Washington, number 41. And thinking about the roster, like even thinking about the Raiders roster, when I'm looking back at it, I was like, man, what about Jack Besh and Dante Thornton? Like, what am I doing with those guys? I got all these extra, wide receivers I'm adding to the mix, all these extra corners I'm adding to the mix, and not saying that they don't have a role because they do, but it was one of those where it was not the best outcome, I thought, for the draft, and that's why I went back and did it multiple times. But do it. Try your luck at it, regardless what simulator you use. It could be, like I said, I use the Pro Football Network, but I always have used the Pro Football Focus one. There's plenty of them out there that you can do. But go ahead and try it out, man. Go a whole 7 rounds. Try it out, and give me your first one. Give me your first one, not your 15th one. Give me your first one. Maybe you can give me a couple. Maybe you can give me one that you like the most, and give me your first one. Because, again, that's the one that really tells you all that that it really is, and how it feels to go through and try to make all those selections, all 10 picks. And like I said, I even did a trade, and then I realized after that trade, I was like, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. But what says you? Want to hear from you. Your calls and texts will close out the show. 707-654-4693. We'll hear from you next. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Before we hear from you, I do want to thank you so much for making this the first listen of the day. Up first, we got a call from Army Raider. He's calling to talk about the deal for Kirk Cousins and what he thinks about everyone complaining about it. Here he is, Army Raider.
Hey, Q, it's your boy Army Raider sitting here listening to your podcast on Friday. And I'm just getting frustrated with some of these people, man. Like, anyone who doesn't realize how good and how smart of a signing the Kirk Cousins thing was, I just don't know what to tell them. I'm going to get these texts where they're mad about it and think it's dumb or these calls. Let me explain something that they might not know. Like, that one dude that texts is like, oh, go get someone else. Number one, there's no other veteran out there who's better, who knows the system, who fits the scheme better. There just isn't. The ones that are out there are on other teams. So what you would have to do in that instance is give up draft capital. Even if it's a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick, that's still a draft pick that could hit. That's still taken away from plugging holes on a roster, right? So that's issue number one I have with it, is I don't think they understand that there's no other quarterbacks available to just go out and pay. You're going to have to trade for them and then pay them. The second thing, and this is for ones you trade with, or if there was some magic guy who got released that was a better fit than Kirk Cousins, you're not going to be paying them $1 million next year. The other reason this is genius is after all the big signings and then having to bring back Max's contract and lose that out of our what we thought we were going to have for the salary cap, we now have a quarterback filled that need of the bridge guy or a strong backup for $1 million next year and then $10 billion the next. I mean, come on. You're not going to get anybody for that. There's no one else you're going to trade for and then have the other team pay 90% of their salary. It's just not going to happen. And lastly is, you want someone there who's going to be competition for Mendoza. Whether you want him to start or you want him to wait, fact of the matter is, it's better for his development to have someone he's competing against. Not mentoring him, as Kubiak said, that's the coach's job, but being there as competition, making him work even harder. Anyways, those three things are just like, I don't understand people that think this is a bad decision. I mean, best case scenario, he's a bridge guy until Mendoza's ready. Worst case, we have a backup that's proven to be 10 times better than Aiden O'Connell in the NFL. Anyways, that's my time. It just frustrated me. Army Raider out.
Army Raider, thanks so much for the call. More importantly, thank you for your service. We appreciate it. And, yeah, it does blow my mind how many people are upset about the quarterback that the Raiders brought in as a veteran that they're paying $1.3 million to this year. Like, that's it. $1.3 million this year. Atlanta's paying $8.7, and then the Raiders pay $10 million next year. $11.3 at the most, which is good backup salary money. And that's it. $11.3 million. And for every reason that Kirk Morrison mentioned that you heard in segment number 1, that makes it well worth the money right there in itself. Not to mention you don't have to throw him out there right away. You can make sure that the team is at least in the best position that they see fit before they put the rookie quarterback out there. It's not the pressure to go out there and be the guy on day one. Army Raider, like I said, thanks so much for your call. Thanks so much for your service. Up next, got a text from Raider Ernie from the 505. Say, what's up, Q? Raider Ernie here from the 505. My only concern with Kirk Cousins is what if he balls out and he's absolutely killing it and we're winning games? Will Fernando Mendoza see any playing time? Obviously, it'd be great for the Raiders to be killing it, even with Kirk Cousins there. But the future of the franchise is Fernando Mendoza. When do you plug him in if Kirk Cousins is playing really good? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you. That's Raider Ernie from the 505. Look, if the Raiders are playing really well, that's a win for everybody, right? If they're winning games, that's a win. That's a win regardless, right? I mean, I'm not worried about it. Fernando Mendoza, they could put him in anytime. We all know he's the future. Like, that is, if they're winning games, I mean, think about the question you just asked. If Kirk Cousins is winning games and out there killing it, like, your words, not mine, there's no problem there. Like, let him play. Let him play. Let him ball out. And when they're ready to pass the sticks on to Fernando, then they will. That means that everything has come together the right way. Maybe he goes a whole season. If he's balling out like you said it, maybe he goes the whole season and Mendoza doesn't play until year 2. That's okay, too. I know we'll all be anxious to see him, but if they're winning games, when's the last time they had a winning season? Think about since the last time they were in the Super Bowl back in calendar year 2003. Right? I mean, think about that. They've only had, 2 playoff appearances since then, 2016 to 2021. If they're winning a bunch of games, let them win a bunch of games. It would be a treat for everybody as far as I'm concerned. So I don't see an issue there at all. But thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Raider Educator in the 925, calling to share a story about a young man that means a lot to him and also touches on round 2 of the upcoming NFL draft. Here's Raider Educator in the 925.
What's up, Q and Ari? This is the Raider Educator out of the 9 1/4. Just wanted to call and kind of talk about life real quick. And I am a teacher. One of my students, Gage Mendoza, just passed away of cancer just yesterday. It was expected. He was stage 4. But I know how Raider Nation likes to come together. I have not bought a Raiders first-round jersey in forever. I own 3 jerseys. Jim Otto, Howie Long, and still my last first-round pick, Rolando McClain. But Gage just turned 15. Mendoza is his last name. I am definitely buying a Mendoza 15 jersey if that is what it is. It's going to have a double meaning. Again, great kid, small kid, big heart, but I just want to give props out, and everything too. He would always come up to me and ask me a Raiders question because he knew that I loved the Raiders, period. On another side, anything after round 2, let's go best player available. The draft is for acquiring talent, free agents for filling up plugs. But again, Gage Mendoza, love you, buddy. Q and Ari, keep doing your thing. Go Raiders.
Raider Educator, thanks so much for passing along the message. And yeah, that jersey, I think that jersey is going to have double meaning, not just for you, but for a lot of Raider Nation. For a lot of Raider Nation that just heard this call, right? I think that's going to have a ton of meaning. Or anyone that knew, Gage Mendoza, knew him, as a person. I bet you whenever they see that jersey, I know every time I see that jersey, I'll think of that now just because of the call. As soon as I see that Mendoza jersey, as soon as I hear that name, I'll think of this call. I promise you. And that's just, I won't be able to help myself. I'm sure that there'll be a ton of Raider Nation that'll feel the same way. Best player available in round 2. Great way to go. That's what I think as well. But most importantly is that message you pass along about young Gage. So, man, Raider Nation is definitely here for his family, and friends. And like I said, thanks so much for passing that along. And, we'll definitely look at that jersey a couple different ways and probably have a smile on our face when we do it. Thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Clearly, Gage meant a lot to you. Up next, got a text from Gonzo Raider. He said, hey, Q, want to weigh in on the discussion of starting Cousins or Mendoza. My opinion should be Cousins. Heard some interesting stats about the amount of snaps Mendoza's played under center and how much the quarterbacking in a Kubiak offense is under center. It's going to take a lot of adjusting. Cousins with the relationship with Kubiak helps to get everything in motion while allowing time for Mendoza to evolve. Again, PA, sense, patience. I was like, what are you trying to say here? Patience in Spanish. That's I messed that one all up. So you can't spell things out and then put it in parentheses that it's patience in Spanish. So that word. We need patience, Raider Nation. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Raider Nation for life. That's some Gonzo Raider. Can't be doing that to me. Paciencia? How about that? I'm gonna see if that was it. We'll give the double thumbs up, just saying that it is. But I don't have any worry about that, any concern about Mendoza under center. I think that he'll pick that up quick. He understands that that's what he's got to learn. He'll be able to learn that. He's been working on it. He did that at the Pro Day, right? If you go back and look at what he did at the Pro Day, he did a lot of featuring under center just to showcase that he's been working on that. So, and I think that Clint Kubiak also, something that we've talked about since day one, he's a guy who can adapt to the quarterback, not necessarily making the quarterback adapt to him. He'll understand that. He'll understand what that quarterback is used to. And if he wants to put him in position to succeed, he's not going to force him to do something that he's not comfortable with until he's comfortable actually doing that. So thanks so much for the text. Appreciate you. We'll close out with a call from No Hating Raider. He's calling to ask a question about the number 1 overall pick and what the Raiders could do with it. Here he is, No Hating Raider.
Q, what up? This is No Hating Raider. Hey, I got a question for Raider Nation that I want to pose to the rest of the group. What if we traded the number 1 pick to the Jets for a haul of picks, considering the fact that we just got Cousins, and Cousins is probably going to start for the whole year anyway, so what's the difference? But what if we traded the number 1 overall pick to the Jets for a haul of picks, including the number 2 overall, and then also including next year's first, and that way we can grab the CJ Carr guy or another quarterback, or the Manning kid, or somebody who Brady thinks is better, because I've heard Brady mention a couple of times CJ Carr, and he kind of gushes over him, and he hasn't done the same for Mendoza. But it's just a thought. What if we traded and made that deal? And also look at Kirk Cousins' contract. Kirk Cousins' contract is a lot longer than we all expected. So what if the Raiders have something up their sleeve where they're thinking about trading this pick just so they can go into next year's draft and then use Kirk Cousins this year as a stopgap, considering he already knows the offense and he already has a nice generous contract. Tell me what you guys think, Raider Nation. This is No Hating Raider. Out.
No hating. Thanks for the call. Appreciate you. And as much as I think it could be tempting to make that move, and as I mentioned in segment number 2, I did make that move once in my many times that I took my chance with the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator. You just go get your guy and keep it moving, right? Don't worry about all the extra draft picks that you can get, all the supposed to be great quarterback class next year. Just go get your guy and move forward. And the contract for Cousins is not what it appears. I know the original numbers were reported like 5 years, $100-something million. It's not that. It's literally a 1 year contract for $11.3 million. It's not what it looks like. It's not. Objects in the mirror are not as they appear, right? It's not that. It's not the same. So trust me, there's no reason to think that Kirk Cousins is going to be the quarterback and they're going to pass on getting their quarterback this year. That's not going to be the case. They'll go get him at number 1 overall and be happy that they did. So thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate you. And that's all we got time for. Got a text from Top City Raider. We'll get that tomorrow. We'll get more calls in as well. We'll have more news and notes. And, hopefully we'll get a little bit of a report of how the first day of the Raiders offseason workouts go. And obviously the visit, Fernando Mendoza with the silver and black. So we'll do that coming up on tomorrow's show. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.